From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, Borno State Governor raises the alarm over the growth of the Islamic State of West Africa province, urges federal government to check expansion of terror group in the country by all means. Federal government identifies 96 terrorism financiers in the country, says 45 of the suspects to face prosecution and seizure of assets soon. The president launches a revised national population policy for the country, calls for urgent measures to address the nation's high fertility rate. An Islamic State leader killed in an overnight raid by U.S. Special Forces in northwest Syria. Plus, other international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, the federal government spends about 3.4 trillion naira on capital projects in 2021, representing 74% of the capital budget figure.
On sports news tonight, the second semi-final clash between Cameroon and Egypt head to extra time as both teams slug it out for a spot in Sunday's AFCON final.
From Abuja, mild drama in the House of Representatives as Speaker angrily adjourns plenary over non-availability of the day's order paper.
A Stitch in Time says 9 that seems to capture the warning by the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, regarding the threat currently posed by the Islamic State of West Africa province to the security of the country. Governor Zulum is urging the federal government not to allow the terror group to grow as they are more educated, sophisticated and destructive. The governor was speaking during the weekly briefing in the State House in what he describes as early warning call to the army to plug the existing gaps in the fight against insurgency, restating his call for the deployment of mercenaries in the war. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Omezuke, has more.
It is the 28th session of the presidential ministerial briefing, and the critical subject of insecurity is again central. The governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, begins by reeling broad interventions, both locally and internationally, in the conflict-ridden northeast. But in spite of this, what is of utmost concern is the growing base of the Islamic State in West Africa province, ISWAP, in some parts of Borno, which is home to about 2 million internally displaced persons.
We shouldn't allow ISWAP to grow. ISWAP are more sophisticated, they are well-funded, they are more educated. Nigerian army has to re-strategize and defeat ISWAP. ISWAP will be a threat to the entire nation.
Against this premise, Governor Zulum is asking the federal government to consider engaging foreign mercenaries.
There is a need for the government of Nigeria to rethink and look into the possibility of hiring mercenaries. I said it time without numbers. There's nothing wrong. America, Britain, many more countries that are stronger than Nigeria do use to seek support outside.
Clearly, the governor's request is at variance with the federal government's position in March 2021, ruling out engaging mercenaries to assist Nigeria in the fight against insurgency, conveyed through the National Security Advisor at the State House.
And there are so many issues when you come to the issue of mercenaries. It has to do with the issue of national pride also. I know you will say, can pride be more of a concern than our security? We have the resources. It's just misapplication or underutilization that has affected our ability to deal with these people.
Mr. President can say something depending upon the situation at that particular time. He may change his mind.
Governor Zulum also debunks earlier reports that 2 local government areas in the state are under the control of Boko Haram, clarifying that they are instead unoccupied by human population as the capacity to protect the people is lacking. Apparently, the governor is determined more than ever before to return those displaced persons back to the 2 local government areas that now stand empty in collaboration with the military. He's also confident that the Presidential Committee on Repatriation and Resettlement will help forge a sustainable path towards a self-reliant Borno state in the next 10 years. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezeke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the analysis by the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit for 2020 to 2021 reveals that 96 financiers of terrorism in Nigeria have been identified, coupled with 424 associates, 123 companies, and 33 bureau de change businesses, all involved in terrorism funding in the country. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, mentioned this at the first briefing of the Ministry for 2022 on the fight against corruption in Abuja. He says that the analysis has resulted in the arrest of 45 suspects who will soon face prosecution and seizure of assets. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
It is the first meeting the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, is having with the media in 2022. And the focus is on the Buhari administration's war on corruption.
I said the fight against corruption.
This briefing is holding about a week after the Transparency International released its latest Corruption Perception Index, where Nigeria dropped 5 places to 154 out of 180 countries. However, Alhaji Mohammed is quick to state that the briefing is not in response to that report.
I'm not really impressed or moved by what TI says. I am more concerned about what we are doing.
The minister links corruption with the war on terror, stating that a progress report from the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit reveals 96 financiers of terrorism in Nigeria.
96 financiers of terrorism in Nigeria, 424 associate supporters of the financiers, the involvement of 123 companies and 33 bureau de change. The analysis has resulted in the arrest of 45 suspects who will soon face prosecution and seizure of assets.
The minister accuses naysayers of continuing to dismiss the Buhari administration's anti-corruption efforts. He reels out the achievements of the various agencies fighting corruption in the country in both the public and private sector.
In 2021 alone, the EFCC secured a total of 2,220 convictions. The TSA system has now been implemented in more than 90% of all federal MDs. The executive order in 2020 that gave financial autonomy to local governments, to state legislatures, to the judiciary, some of the most effective ways of fighting corruption.
The Minister of Information and Culture is stating categorically that today's briefing has nothing to do with the Transparency International report. However, this particular report by Transparency International identifies particular areas where corruption is rife, especially in the public service, where public servants have been accused of taking kickbacks for doing their job. While the Minister of Information and Culture believes that it is possible for us to check these particular excesses if everybody puts their hands on deck and follows the Buhari administration in its fight against corruption. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, attacks by terrorists in parts of the northwest continue as no fewer than 6 people have been reportedly killed in Dadara village of Jibia local government area of Katsina State. The gunmen had in the late hours of yesterday stormed the village and killed the victims, including the village head, identified as Mr. Jafaru Rabiu Yangaya. The police command in the state has confirmed the incident, while sources from Jibia tell Channels Television that the gunmen also abducted 5 other residents. Katsina State is one of the states in the northwest that has been under siege by rampaging terrorists. who sacked communities, killing and kidnapping residents in the process. Staying with security, 13 years after Boko Haram began its deadly assault across the northeast sub-region, the Yobe State government says 162 students and 3 teachers have been killed across the state in the group's campaign to eliminate Western education. Examining the effects of insurgency on the sector, the Deputy Governor, Idi Bade Gubana, explained that a multifaceted approach has been adopted, but more still needs to be done.
Yobe, apart from being one of the states with educational challenges, the activities of Boko Haram has also posed a threat to the sector, with many schools' infrastructure destroyed and academic activities shut down. While some schools in the urban areas are overstretched with pupils and students, in the rural areas the number of out-of-school children continues to grow to 658,770 as at October 2021. He revealed a total of 167 students and 3 teachers were killed in the last 13 years.
The incidents unleashed their acts of terror when the whole society, with the education sector being the worst hit.
They killed a lot of teachers, much that the best one among the teachers that are capable of getting employment elsewhere, they are no longer in Yobe State. So the condition is we are building and they are destroying. We are building and they are destroying. Much that now our educational institutions, to a large extent, are no longer conducive for learning.
In 2019, when Governor Mayamala Buni came on board, he declared a state of emergency on the basic and secondary education sector to revitalize the sector. But the yoke is not easy and the challenge is cumbersome. The government will now launch 25 billion naira education trust fund to reposition the dilapidated schools, recruit more qualified teachers, as well as improve their welfare.
It is a matter of joy and encouragement to state that we have so far received great responses from the 17 local government areas of the state, with many of them surpassing their targets.
The state has over 10 displaced tertiary and secondary schools, and more funds are needed to regain the lost glory of the education sector in Yobe State.
Away from issues of security, the president is calling for the expansion of access to modern contraceptive methods across the country to address the nation's rising population. Speaking at the launch of the revised National Policy on Population in the State House, Abuja, President Buhari explains that the overall goal of the policy is to improve the quality of life and standard of living of Nigerians. The president also inaugurated the National Council on Population Management, which he chairs.
In his capacity as the chairman of the National Council on Population Management, President Muhammadu Buhari presides over a meeting of the council, which includes the management team of the National Population Commission and some members of his cabinet. Aside from inaugurating the council, the president launches the revised National Policy on Population for Sustainable Development, stating his concern as regards Nigeria's high fertility rate.
The new national population policy emphasizes the urgency to address Nigeria's sustained high fertility rate through expanding access to modern family planning, counseling, and commodities, as well as promote birth spacing. This will enable Nigeria to achieve rapid fertility control, improve the health of women, adolescents, newborn children, and other population groups.
The main thrust of the revised policy is to reduce the population growth rate and accelerate demographic transition for the realization of the demographic dividend, as the president hopes that it can serve as a guiding tool for the implementation of national development plans.
The revised population policy is rich with all necessary information that will guide the implementation of Nigeria's mid-term and perspective development plan.
The inauguration of the council and the launch of the revised policy are considered critical steps towards managing the nation's population, especially as the country prepares for the conduct of a national census.
In addition to providing strategic direction in the implementation of the process, the National Council on Population Management will hopefully advocate for and support the conduct of the population and housing census, thus providing accurate and up-to-date data to guide the implementation and fast-tracking of the progress of the policy.
The policy brings to the forefront the linkages between population and development and will inform work and services to improve the well-being and lives of Nigerians.
The government expects that the forthcoming census exercise will provide the required data for the successful implementation of the revised policy.
In part two, after the break, former governor of Imo State, Senator Rochas Okorocha, accuses the EFCC of harassing him over allegations of a 2.9 billion naira fraud. Asks the president to intervene. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Borno State Governor raises alarm over the growth of the Islamic State of West Africa province, urges federal government to check expansion of terror group in the country by all means. Federal government identifies 96 terrorism financiers in the country, says 45 of the suspects to face prosecution and seizure of assets soon. The president launches a revised national population policy for the country, calls for urgent measures to address the nation's high fertility rate. An Islamic State leader killed in an overnight raid by U.S. Special Forces in northwest Syria. President Muhammadu Buhari has departed Abuja for a 4-day official trip to the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, for the 35th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Union Heads of State and Government. The president is joining other African leaders at the summit, which is expected to advance solutions to the political, economic and social challenges facing the continent. On the sidelines of the AU meetings, the president is equally expected to engage with other leaders in bilateral meetings, focusing on improved trade relations, partnering to tackle security challenges, and maintaining relations with multilateral institutions for sustainable development. He is accompanied by 4 ministers, the National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, as well as the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Abubakar. In politics, the former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, has taken his grievances against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to the president. He's asking President Muhammadu Buhari to call the EFCC to order and stop it from harassing and intimidating him over allegations of a 2.9 billion naira fraud. He was speaking to State House correspondents after a meeting with the president.
And so I have to inform Mr. President that EFCC should be meant to obey the law that established them. And without the law, there would have been an EFCC. And the desperation with which they go about any affair that concerns me should stop. And I reminded Mr. President that I recall that some times ago, the EFCC had claimed that they recovered the sum of 5.9 billion from my account, which the court found out to be untrue. On that basis, the court ruled and ordered that they should not any further, more, interrogate and harass me. This has also not been obeyed. The court ordered the EFCC to release my international passport. EFCC have refused to obey. The court gave damages to me for the sum of 500 million naira for EFCC to pay. EFCC have not paid that. Rather than doing that, on the day of my declaration, EFCC went on the press to announce that I'm being prosecuted for some criminal charges of 2.9 billion and no more than 5.9 billion. So I said, as the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria and one that stands on the side of law, that he should bring this attention to the EFCC. And despite the effort by the Office of Attorney General to make EFCC reasons and obey court judgment to release my travel documents and stop the harassment, the EFCC have refused. So I think that's some kind of desperation on the side of EFCC, and I don't know who might be causing this, but it is appropriate that I do let them know of the injustice that is going on with me as regards the EFCC.
Let's get more now from Abuja. Here's Gloria Umezuke. Hi, Gloria.
Hello, Amarachi. Good to see you. Well, here in Abuja, mild drama unfolded today in the House of Representatives as members failed to sit and the Speaker, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, angrily adjourned plenary over non-provision of the order paper. The order paper is a program schedule that dictates the proceedings of plenary. Before adjourning, the Speaker berated the clerk of the House for being absent when he arrived at about 11:20 a.m. to a scanty chamber.
And I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to hold whoever is responsible. This House sits at 11. Everybody knows that. We adjourned yesterday to 11 o'clock. It's 11:20. When I came in, there was nobody on this row. You weren't here. None of your deputies were here. The order paper is not ready. We cannot function as a house. I mean, what kind of thing is that? What kind of thing is that? That we are now forced to adjourn the House. Please, everybody should see me in my office. House adjourns to Tuesday.
Away from the National Assembly, the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room is asking the president to thoroughly scrutinize nominees for appointment into the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in order not to undermine the commission's efforts to deliver credible elections in 2023. According to the group, the need for credible personnel at the Independent National Electoral Commission becomes expedient as over 20 resident electoral commissioners are due to retire from service in August this year.
INEC is a body and as constituted, is prepared to deliver credible elections in Nigeria as we head to 2023 elections. This means that personnel and commissioners of the electoral management body must have credibility and integrity as clearly stated in the third schedule of the 1999 Constitution. Very soon, about 25 recs will be up by August. And who is the kind of person that is going to come out? The item in paragraph paragraph 14, F14 of the third schedule to the 1999 Constitution provides as follows. A member of the commission shall, subsection A, be non-partisan and a person of unquestionable integrity. And in section 3, subsection 3, there shall be for each state of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory a resident electoral commissioner who shall be a person of unquestionable integrity and shall not be a member of any political party. And that is why we are asking the president to look seriously at those that have been elected or been nominated. From wherever they are nominating, it is the president that will hold accountable, because at the end, he is the one who is nominating them.
Concerns about the peaceful conduct of elections in the 6 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory continue to dominate conversations as the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, holds consultation meetings with stakeholders in Abuja. Electorates in Nigeria's Capital Territory will be voting in the representatives at the area council level on February 12, which is less than 2 weeks from now. While stakeholders in the FCT are asking INEC to make the exercise free and fair, the electoral umpire appeals to politicians and their supporters to be peaceful during the elections.
It is one of the series of meetings between the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and key players in the forthcoming area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory. Attending this meeting are traditional rulers from the 6 area councils, the Minister of the FCT, and other top political leaders in the Federal Capital Territory. Crux of the discussion is the need to hold peaceful area council elections on the 12th of February this year.
Let me once again reiterate the importance of peace to the successful conduct of the area council elections. For our part, we will protect the integrity of the process.
Our eyes are on our officials, be they ad hoc or regular staff, to ensure that they strictly abide by the rules. Each political party has a chance of winning an election in the FCT. Let the 2022 Area Council election be the beacon for a peaceful and credible 2023 general election.
The meeting then proceeds into a closed-door session. But before then, Senator Philip Aduda, who represents the Federal Capital Territory in the Senate, makes an appeal.
It is God Almighty that gives power. He is the only person who gives power and gives to whoever he deems fit. So let us be mindful of our words. Let us be careful with what we are saying so that we can conduct this election like we have always done without even anybody slapping anybody. And for the purpose of emphasis, we are all brothers here.
In just a matter of days, electorates in the FCT are expected to vote for candidates of their choice into the offices of chairman and councillors in the 6 area councils in the nation's capital. However, whether or not this exercise will be peaceful will largely depend on the conduct of INEC, the politicians, and their supporters.
The All Progressives Congress has issued the party's certificate of return to all its elected state chairmen in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. The National Secretary of the Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the party, Senator John Okpan Odoidege, presented the certificates to the chairman at a brief ceremony held at the national headquarters of the party in Abuja. The chairmen who were physically present to receive their certificate of return assured the leadership of the party of their unflinching loyalty. In other stories, activities of multinational oil company Sterling Oil Exploration and Energy Production Company Limited have been disrupted by the people of Okpai community in Ndokwa East Council area of Delta State, who insist on the implementation of a memorandum of understanding signed in 2019, bearing placards with different inscriptions. The residents blocked the entrance of the oil company and have vowed to remain there until their demands are met.
The loud chant is a clear indication that the people of Okpai community in Ndokwa East local government area of Delta State are not happy. Their grounds is that despite the presence of oil multinationals operating in their land for the past 15 years, there is no commensurate development in the area. On a regular basis, they say they are faced with the negative impact of gas flaring and other exploration activities without any form of compensation. According to the people, several agreements have been reached on how they can be compensated, including the signing of a memorandum of understanding with all stakeholders in 2019. 3 years after, nothing has been done.
An agreement was signed with the assistance of the governor that they should be paying a lump sum of money in lieu of development to Okpaikan. This agreement was signed, board was inaugurated to manage this fund. The company has refused to release the fund. As I speak to you, it has accumulated over 300 million for the development of the community. And they keep making exploration on daily basis. As you can see, this is the river. Nothing less than 30 barges leave this ground every day. We're not even sure the federal government is aware.
To press home their demands, they block the entrance of the company and are asking the state and the federal government to come to their aid.
Sterling Global don't want to give us our chance. That is what we are crying for today. Women say they will not agree. Sterling Global is a company that will come to your community. If you don't trust your brother, you will start killing your brother. So since they don't want to pay us our money, let them go.
Although the company involved is yet to comment on the issue, the Delta State government, who are signatory to the MOU between the oil company and the Okpai people, is calling for calm.
You can see for yourself that there is no violence here. And secondly, as government, as the head to His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, I think the Governor has done us so well by providing an enabling environment for oil companies. So my appeal to the company is to comply to all the agreement reached.
Over the years, people from the region have resorted to protest on issues concerning their lives and livelihood negatively impacted by activities of the oil companies. It is expected that with the intervention by the state government, dialogue will suffice.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Amarachi in Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Thanks, Gloria. I'm going to stay with the theme that you began earlier. A local production oil production vessel has exploded and sunk at the Pokiti terminal around Escravos, Warri Southwest in Delta State. The floating production, storage and offloading vessel, which is owned by Sheba Exploration and Production Company Limited, SEPCO, has a capacity to process up to 22,000 barrels of oil per day and store 2 million barrels of oil. A statement from the company explains that the explosion, which occurred in the early hours of Wednesday, with 10 crew members on board, but no casualties were recorded. The company says it currently is investigating the cause of the explosion with necessary parties. To legal matters now, a high court in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, has paved the way for the Rivers State government to commence proper criminal trial of a foreign company, Saipem SBA, its Nigeria subsidiary, and some local and foreign staff of alleged contract fraud. It's coming after the presiding judge, Justice Okobule Bassam, dismissed an application of preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the court to continue with the matter on the grounds of alleged abuse of court processes by the Office of the Attorney General of Rivers State. The defendants in the matter are Saipem SBA, Saipem Contracting Nigeria Limited, 4 expatriates, including the company's manager and a Nigerian. Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, led the national vice chairman of the People's Democratic Party in the South-South, Dan Obe, Rivers State chairman of the PDP, Ambassador Desmond Akawo, former Senator Olakawogu, and state lawmaker Smart Adoki to observe the proceedings for the second consecutive day. The case has, however, been adjourned to February 22nd, 23rd, and the 24th, 2022.
The court adjourned to today to hear the preliminary objection filed by the first, second, third, and the 6th defendants. All processes were filed. They all got in today. The objections were taken. The state objected vigorously to the objection that the applicants raised. After a reasoned decision, the judge dismissed the objections and asked that trial proceed. The state immediately opened this case and tendered sets of documents in support of this case. The documents are categorized in about 4 different categories, and in spite of the objection by counsel to the defendants, the objections were overruled and the documents have been admitted. Matter has been adjourned to the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of February 2022. We intend to call all our witnesses and hopefully open and close our case on those 3 days, or within those 3 days.
For today, the court, we came here for the issue of competence of the charge, information that was charged before the court, and the jurisdiction of the court to entertain same. The court held that it has jurisdiction on the ground of the fact that the information the parties pleaded to were not being questioned by us, and that what we were questioning was the information that was filed on 5th of November 2021, for which same has been duly amended. Our point, however, is that an incompetent information cannot be made competent by way of an amendment. But in the course wisdom, the court ruled against us, and thereafter the hearing commenced. In any event, no witness was called, but the tender documents across the bar to the court. For my humble self, I have not seen those documents. That was the basis of my objection. In any event, the court has ordered that they make copies and serve on us.
One person has been arrested in connection with today's attack on the campaign office of the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. The three-story building, also known as Oromio House, located in Oshobo Bogong Road, has its glass windows shattered by the attackers. There's been some tension in the state following the division among members of the All Progressives Congress, with one group pledging loyalty to the former governor and the other in support of the sitting governor, Boyega Oyetola. The party's primary election is slated for March 5th, 2022, ahead of the governorship elections slated for July 16th, 2022. Tragedy struck today at Aba, the commercial center of Abia State, as a truck conveying large container ran into Ahiodele Market in Obo Hill axis of the city, destroying properties worth millions of naira. The cause of the accident is yet to be ascertained, but eyewitness report says the accident may have occurred as a result of brake failure. Meanwhile, the governor of Abia State, Dr. Okezie-Ikpeazu, has ordered the immediate closure of the Abattoir Cattle Market and the Ahiodele Market, directing all those doing business in that area to relocate to New Omuma Uzo Abattoir in Ukwa West and the Good Morning Market in Aba. Further directs that the Ministry of Homeland Security work with relevant security agencies in ensuring compliance. To health matters, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Kayode Fayeme, today led a delegation of 6 governors into a closed-door meeting with the president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, owing to the rising cases of vaccine-derived polio in Nigeria. The meeting, which also had the chairman of Aliko Dangote Foundation in attendance, discussed the need to nip the recent outbreak of vaccine-derived polio in the bud and prevent the reemergence of wild polio virus in the country. Nigeria was certified wild polio-free by the World Health Organization in 2020, but the president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation says there is a greater need to scale up the quality of primary health care service in the country.
There's a lot of work to do to build upon our successes. We began collaboration almost a decade ago with the purpose of eliminating polio virus. And 5.5 years ago, together we succeeded in eliminating wild polio virus from Nigeria and from the African continent, so that the entire continent of Africa was certified as free of the wild polio virus over 18 months ago. Then, as we've seen in the last couple of years, we've seen the emergence of the CMBV variants. They emerge not just here in Nigeria, but in other countries. I think there's a dozen or so in sub-Saharan Africa where we've seen these CMPV outbreaks, and they're always in places with routine immunization. So I think we have work to do, and I look forward to hearing the presentation from the NGF Secretariat and the reactions of the governors to how we finish the job in eradicating all forms of poliovirus. And I don't want to think about that as a step backwards. I think about it actually as our step forward, because the way we do that is to continue to do high-quality campaigns for the poliovirus, but more importantly, and as importantly, to strengthen the primary healthcare system.
To bilateral relations, the Honorary Consulate of Sweden has officially opened at the Landmark Towers in Lagos. Attending the opening ceremony was the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Swedish Ambassador to Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon and ECOWAS, Carl Michael Grants, the Honorary Consul General, Philip Ackson, members of the Diplomatic Corps and Nigerian-Swedish business community. The governor reiterated relations between Nigeria and Sweden, which span over 60 years, which would be made stronger through establishment of the Honorary Consulate. He said it is necessary that Sweden has footprints in Lagos. The Honorary Consul General himself says the Honorary's main goal will be to serve the Swedish community in Lagos, but it will also provide more opportunities to improve on long-standing relations between the two countries.
Coming to Lagos, in my view, and like I said earlier, is the most appropriate thing to do. And several other countries currently also have, a consular office in Lagos, just so that people can feel those relationships quicker, faster, and better, right? And there's so many Swedish companies that are in the country, Scania, Tetra Pak, ABB, several others and so they need to be able to, both on the consular side, have their embassies serve them very well. But more importantly, on the commercial side, with our own citizens having an embassy or a consular office here, so that they don't need to travel a 1-hour, air journey to go get some of those things done in Abuja.
Sweden has a diplomatic mission in Nigeria for the past 60 years. So a very strong bond that goes way back in time. We also have a very strong presence in Lagos and across Nigeria of Swedish companies such as ABB, Scania, Ericsson. And 2 days ago, it was actually announced that Africa's largest VC fund will open up, and a lot of investments will go to Nigeria as part of that, supporting local tech companies. They also have a board of unicorn founders who will support these companies that these investors are investing in, support them and help them grow and scale up to unicorn status for them as well. So we have a great long-standing relationship with Nigeria, and hopefully even stronger ties will be forged over the next few years.
The Ogun State government is taking proactive measures to instill discipline as it commences an advocacy counselling session to public secondary schools, that is, in the face of the prevailing moral decadence being recorded among students. At the Abeokuta Girls Grammar School in the state capital, the State Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Professor Abayomi Arigbabu, announced that the 4 students of the school found smoking shisha in a viral video last year have been pardoned, rehabilitated and counselled.
For the Ogun State government, this advocacy program at the Abeokuta Girls Grammar School in the state capital has become expedient due to the moral laxitude recorded among some students.
These girls are going to be models in this school. We have taken them through counseling sessions. We brought in 2 professors. We brought in the ANCOPS president, also a counselor. We brought in retired principals that are counselors. They interacted with them for 2 weeks and their parents. I also spoke to them. And you all saw them, they came into school for manual labor. That is to say, there should be some sanction, even when you do something wrong. You don't just pat you on the back. They have gone through that process, so that they will know that what they have done wasn't right. It brought bad image to the school, and even to themselves and to the family.
The Commissioner for Education also announces some measures being taken in schools to check truancy, while the principal commends this initiative.
We will actually take the attendance of SS3 from schools every week. They have to give us return in the ministry every week. So when you start on Monday like this, by Friday, the attendance for the week, we have it. That is physical. But don't forget that we have a means of now checking also through the platform, the extra platform.
I appreciate the Honorable Commissioner for what he did this morning. In fact, it's something that is laudable. Himself, he left the office with everybody, and they came here, they talked to our students, they counseled them, they talked to them a lot. And we had promised that when next he will be coming, he will see us even better than he saw us today.
This is the first public secondary school the Ogun Advocacy Counseling Talks team is visiting, and they intend to move to other schools across the state with the message of instilling the right attitude and discipline into the students as they encourage parents to do their part.
It's time now for business news. Here's Teniola Shibawale.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Amarachi. Welcome to Business News. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has announced that a total of 3.4 trillion naira has been spent on capital expenditure as at November 2021. This amount represents a 74% budget performance when compared to the total capital budget of over 4.5 trillion naira. The Finance Minister, who was speaking in Abuja at the symbolic presentation of sukuk checks to the beneficiary ministries, explained that the latest 250 billion naira sukuk will be released as part of the capital expenditure in the 2021 Appropriation Act, which has been extended by the National Assembly to March the 31st. The Federal Inland Revenue Service says it will start collecting taxes on income derived by companies from bonds and short-term securities. In a statement, the FIRS explains that companies will now pay taxes on profits from loans given to the government effective from January the 2nd, having been exempt for 10 years. The FIRS therefore urges taxpayers to comply by including such income in self-assessment returns and tax computations. Meanwhile, analysts say the new development would raise the cost of borrowing for issuers. Global risk assessment firm Moody's has concluded its plans to acquire a 51% stake in African credit rating agency Global Credit Rating Company. In a statement released today, the president and CEO of Moody's, Rob Fauber, says the combination of GCR's successful domestic operations creates a unique opportunity for Moody's to expand its presence in a high-growth region such as Africa and enable them to build on deepening local market insights across the continent. The transaction, which is expected to close in the second quarter of this year, is subject to customary regulatory approvals. GCR is a leading credit rating agency in Africa with operations across Nigeria, South Africa, Senegal, Kenya, and Mauritius. Nigeria's equities market made a U-turn into positive territory at the close of trading today. The all-share index rose by 0.85%, led by largely by gains in Owando. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. And we're back at the 47K level again as the equities market closed on a positive note. The NGX all-share index appreciated by 0.85% to close at 47,329 points against the 0.38% drop recorded previously. And year-to-date return currently stands at 10.80%. Looking at the market turnover, it closed negative as volume moved down by a negative 20.29%. We see Fidelity Bank, ABNH, and Guarantee Trust were the most active to boost the market turnover. Owando gained the most today as 47 kobo was added to its share price to close at 5 naira 17 kobo, taking the oil and gas index up over 1%. Looking at other sectors we track, we see the banking index is down again with sell-offs seen on tier 1 banking stocks. Meanwhile, Pharmadeco shed 22 kobo to top 19 losers, although it was a positive market breadth today compared to yesterday. Well, final trading day for the week tomorrow. We'll see if investors will bring more buying pressure. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Laddie. Meanwhile, let's check out the closing numbers for other major markets around the world. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Teniola. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has participated in the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit of the Authority of Heads of State and Government in Accra, Ghana, over the rise of military takeovers in the region. West African leaders agreed not to impose further sanctions on Burkina Faso following last month's coup, but instead call for a short transition to civilian rule and the release of the ousted President Roch Kabore. At the start of the summit, ECOWAS chairman and Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo described last year's coup in Mali as contagious and warned that West Africa is in great danger. He says there's a need to respond collectively and decisively to stop the trend from devastating the entire region.
The attempt 2 days ago to
to overthrow the democratically elected government of President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau by a military coup failed, and the would-be putschists are being rounded up as we meet. I speak for all of us when I applaud President Embalo for sustaining the validity of the democratic institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Let us address this dangerous trend collectively and decisively before it devastates the whole region.
Beyond Africa now, U.S. President Joe Biden says leader of the Islamic State group Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi has been killed in an overnight U.S. Special Forces raid in northwest Syria. According to the president, Qurayshi detonated a bomb that killed himself and his own family in a final act of desperate cowardice. Syrian first responders say they found the bodies of 13 people after the raid. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US officials say the leader of the Islamic State group has been killed in an overnight US Special Forces raid in northwestern Syria. Special Forces and helicopters opened fire on a surrounded house in Deir Balut. President Biden and Vice President Harris both watched the operation from the White House. Earlier, Mr. Biden said that Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi had been taken off the battlefield. Officials said Qurayshi detonated a bomb that killed him and members of his own family. The White Helmets Rescue Service said at least 13 people, including 6 children and 4 women, had been killed. President Biden said all Americans involved had returned safely from the operation, which he declared would protect the American people and our allies and make the world a safer place. Russia has condemned a US decision to send extra troops to Europe to support its allies amid continuing fears of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Moscow said it was a destructive step, which heightened tension and reduced the scope for a political solution. The Pentagon said 2,000 US troops would be sent from North Carolina to Poland and Germany, and a further 1,000 already in Germany would go to Romania. Russia has some 100,000 troops near Ukraine. It denies planning to invade. New Zealand has announced a phased reopening of its borders as the country starts to ease some of the world's toughest COVID restrictions.
Today I want to talk about the next set of changes that will take us a long way.
Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the time was right for the country to open back up the borders slowly and sensibly. Vaccinated citizens in Australia can go home from 27th of February without needing to undergo state mandatory hotel quarantine. Jabbed citizens elsewhere will be allowed in from the 13th of March. One of the world's biggest container ships has run aground off the German island of Vangruj in the North Sea. No injuries were reported among the 30 people on board the Mumbai Maersk. A first attempt to tow the 400-metre ship into deeper water on Thursday morning by 2 multi-purpose vessels and 5 tugs failed. The rescue company said they will deploy a number of additional tugs and make a second attempt around midnight. Serbian tennis star Novak Djokovic has met the Serbian president in Belgrade and told the media to be patient, saying he would comment on the cancellation of his Australian visa in the coming days. Speaking to Alexander Vucic in the capital, Djokovic said in the next 7 to 10 days he would publicly go into more detail with his version of what happened. The cancellation of his visa to play in this year's Australian Open sparked a diplomatic dispute and a worldwide debate on the rights of the unvaccinated in January. The ongoing closure of the highway connecting Sudan to Egypt by the Sudanese resistance committees of the north has entered its 9th day. Makeshift roadblocks have been set up and barricades erected along the road connecting the two countries, which has disrupted the movement of vehicles returning to Egypt with Sudanese livestock or goods. Protesters, who are mostly farmers, closed the road initially because the government raised the cost of electricity and forced the government to make a U-turn. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has launched a new fish farming initiative for farmers and fishmongers in Zimbabwe. According to the UN organization, aquaculture in Zimbabwe is struggling to reach its full potential despite the technical progress. project is also aimed to improve food security and contribute to poverty reduction, as well as stimulate economic growth across this landlocked nation. In Zimbabwe, per capita, fish consumption is significantly below the average in other southern African states. And finally, the city of Rotterdam has confirmed it will dismantle a historic bridge to allow a super yacht built for Amazon founder Jeff Bezos to fit through. The luxury yacht, linked to the world's richest man, is currently still under construction. The vessel is reported to be 417 foot long and too tall to fit through Koningshaven Bridge. A spokesman for the mayor confirmed the plan to reporters, with Mr. Bezos set to foot the bill for the bridge. The move is controversial because the steel bridge has a long history and is now a national monument. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The final for the Africa Cup of Nations is all set. As 7-time champions, the Pharaohs of Egypt will now face the Teranga Lions of Senegal on Sunday at the Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé. Well, Egypt beat the host Cameroon on penalties after a goalless draw in a highly tense match that saw the head coach of the Pharaohs of Egypt, Carlos Queiroz, getting a red card, which means he will miss Sunday's final. Well, Egypt will be going for their 8th title in Sunday's final, while Senegal will try to make their very first AFCON title against the Egyptians. Gombe United beat visiting MFM FC 3-0 at the Pantami Stadium, Gombe, earlier this evening to wrap up match day 10 of the Nigeria Professional Football League. A brace from Abdulaziz Yusuf and Aminu Mohammed handed Gombe United their 3rd win in 10 league games and are currently 25th on the NPFL log. Gabon striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is delighted to be unveiled as a new player at FC Barcelona after his Arsenal exit. The striker says the past months had been complicated at Arsenal, but said that's part of the past now, adding he will need to adapt quickly to Barca's style of football. Roger Federer has declared it a fiddle comeback after confirming he will join Rafa Nadal in representing Team Europe at this year's Laver Cup in London. The event will take place at the prestigious O2 Arena from September the 23rd to the 25th, with Europe out to win against Team World for a 5th successive time. And that's sports news.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, today raised alarm over the growth of the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP. He advised the federal government to check the expansion of the terror group in the country by all means necessary. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. From all of us here, it's good night.